Welcome into the SorareData Strategy Show. I am Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare. Joined as always by Sean Newsham, PSU fans too. This week to talk about the end of Global All-Star and U23 as we know it, Sean. Or maybe not. We'll get to that in a little bit. Thank you to everybody who has joined us live here on this actually it's a rainy Monday for me here, but obviously there are people all over the world who might have some better weather. Thank you to Paraskill, who is first in the chat, saying that PSG, Bayern, and Zenit are actually ruining All-Star. Ajax and Salzburg ruining U23s. I don't believe they play in the second division, so we'll get to that in a little bit. Sorare Wakey, Mido 92, Flong, Niftio, good to see you. Yehonatan is how I would say that. Padugol, John Andrews, Josh Forth, what's up? Thank you all for joining us. If you guys have already liked what you've seen, if you could hit the like button, anybody who's watching the replay can do the same. As a reminder, if you're if you're listening on Spotify, you can watch the video version as well. Just pick up your phone and it shows up. Sean, we had the introduction of coverage of the second divisions in the top 5 European leagues last week. We are assuming that we're going to get cards from the second division in Germany and Spain because we know that Sorare have deals with those leagues. What was your initial response when that announcement came out?
That people were really overreacting in most situations. I don't know. People were losing their minds, and I looked at it. I already had heard rumors, like the rumors were going for weeks because I saw the photos. I saw the photos of the new card, so I was like, all right, well, this is probably going to happen. I looked through some stuff. I was like, well, most of these guys aren't impactful that are on the platform. I did buy an Eddie and Green, actually, who got sent off this weekend.
Did he really? That's
funny.
Yeah,
he got sent off. They they lost 3-0, had 3 red cards.
Oh, wow. That sounds like second division to me, just saying. Sean, before we go any further, are you relegation lover on Sorare? Oh my gosh, and he's walking away. We talked about this earlier, actually, that he had to answer his door at some point. And I think it's just coincidence that he's doing this just as I bring this question. I will say I am not relegation lover. There seems to be, for those of you who are unfamiliar, there is a Sorare manager by the name of Relegation Lover who was buying all of these second division cards over the last, I believe they joined a month today. And there was some speculation that they may have known something ahead of time. And it does look really sketchy. And I'm sorry for those of you who are listening to this and not watching, because Sean got up and left the second I asked this question. And
I'm back.
Oh, he's back.
I've returned.
He had to go talk to his lawyer. So, Sean, are you relegation lover?
I'm not relegation lover. I honestly don't even know what cards relegation lover bought. I didn't look at it.
They bought all of them.
Well, actually, no. You know what? I did know they got some of the uniques. So that's I saw they bought Tanaka unique for like 2 ETH, and then they sold it for like 8 or something. So that was impressive. But yeah, I literally bought Eddie and Green because I saw all the rumors and I was like, well, looking at it, I was like, he is better than Muric because he's younger than Muric. He has years left of eligibility. So I was sitting there, I'm like, well, Muric's like 2.5 ETH and Eddie and Green's like 0.6. And I'm like, Eddie and Green, if they don't cover, it's going to be like 0.5. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to buy an Eddie and Green. So I was sitting there the one day, like 3 days before it actually got announced, I think. I was like, I'm going to buy an Eddie and Green because like 8 other people have bought one and his price really hasn't rose from that at all. So I was just like, yeah, whatever. So I bought an Eddie and Green, but it's not even worth much more. I think I paid 0.66 and I think he's worth like 0.9. But I think part of that's just like people don't understand that like he's a pretty good U23 goalie option now. So like I expect he'll go up. At highest, someone paid 1.1. No one paid above 1.1.
Is he a pretty good option or is he just an option?
I mean, he's not aging out. So, like, you have 3 years left of him. I think he is a good option.
Yeah, I guess the way that I always just think about U23 goalkeepers is, are they eligible for U23? And that's pretty much it.
Well, yeah, it's are they eligible, and then are they eligible for more than 1 year?
Oh, he's over an ETH now.
Well, no, I mean the floor is 0.95 literally right now.
Oh, you're right. I take that back. Sorry, I was looking at the previous transactions. Yeah. All right.
But yeah, no, I mean, he's fine. But I looked through other players. Like there was not tons of guys that were like smashers. Like yes, John Nellis is here. Welcome, John. John was out there buying some U23 pieces in the championships of other countries and the Division Twos. I saw that the other day. But like, I don't know. There weren't cheat code cards out there. Like there wasn't like at least that I saw. Again, this is my busy time of the year, so I don't have the time to look through every player like I maybe would if this happened in, let's say, March. So like it just is a time of the year where it's not there for me to put in 10 hours looking at stuff. But the quick scan through I had, like I didn't see anyone that I was like, this guy's gonna be a 75 average player and absolutely smash. So like I was pretty excited. Like you're gonna increase rewards, which is what people want. But then people were upset that we're putting in new players, despite these players really not having much of an impact on the week. Like this isn't PSG. We didn't add PSG in here. Like Ajax, PSG, Bayern, like they have more impact on winning than like something like this.
Yeah. So that's where I was starting to question a lot of people. I will say that my initial response was that I didn't like the idea of second division cards being played in All Star and U23, and that was just like oh no, I have to compete now with these cards. Surely there are U23 and All Star cheat codes in these leagues that I will now lose to. And the more I looked into it, and I will say before anyone in chat asks, like we don't have the second division stats on SorareData yet. The expectation is we will soon. So please be patient with that. So that was my first response, if only just because it's like, oh, more that I have to compete with. And then the sort of response of everyone else was like, oh no, now there's just more supply. There's just going to be more cards. And I think with that came with the idea that like all 5 leagues are going to be minted, which we don't know if they are. I think it's realistic to think that Segunda Division in Spain and 2 Bundesliga will be, because they have those licenses as far as we know. So then it was like, yeah, all this new supply is going to push prices down for existing cards, which I think is wrong. Like adding not great cards to the platform doesn't mean that like good cards prices go down. So whatever, there's that. But then there was like this weird thing that like everybody's like, we need more rewards. And the way you get more rewards is by introducing more cards to the platform, which is exactly what this did. And yet it felt like there was more of a, oh no, more cards are going to push prices down, as opposed to, oh, we have more rewards, which are like counter to each other, even though they're the exact same thing.
Yeah, honestly, it was very confusing. The reactions I was seeing was just like, I don't know. I don't really have a comment on it because I was just baffled by most of the comments. People were like, "We want more rewards, but we don't want more cards." That doesn't add up.
Right.
I mean, I do understand. So part of the idea with the "we want more rewards" is that they do not utilize the entire load of a player's cards on a given season. So like that is where that's coming from. But again, like the idea from Sorare, the one thing that I saw that was really shocking was people were blown away by Sorare was like adding these leagues. The idea of Sorare is to add every league in the world to a realistic, like they're not going to add like the 18th division in like Guam, but like they're going to add every league that's a realistic league. Like that's what they want to do. So like I don't understand what is bad about utilizing a situation like this. Not to mention, this now also provides protection in those leagues of having players on lower end type teams, because they're really don't have a chance of getting relegated. And if they do go to the second division, they could be a better card than what they were in the higher level.
Yeah. So
people do not like change. People have very big issues with change. Also, I feel like there's just a lot of entitlement out there where people are like, I want to win with and not pay anything. They're like, we just want cards. I want to win, even though I don't deserve to win. And that's something that people struggle with, I think.
I agree with you on that. I think one of the things that got me, that like kind of put it in perspective, was it was actually things basically happened like back to back. One was the introduction of the second leagues and that they were going to have their own division. But obviously they're still going to be usable in specialist and all-star, U23, all of those. But there was a tweet from Tony Watt, and he was basically like, players in the second divisions of the top 5 European leagues are really good.
Yeah.
Like in real life, those players are really good. That doesn't mean that they're valuable in our game. And like, we know that how you do in the game is going to have a bigger effect on card prices than anything else. And so he was like, why is Jota, who we know is awesome in this game, twice as expensive as Ciro Immobile, who like in real life is probably a better footballer because he plays on a higher level. Like, I don't think the expectation is that Jota would play as well at Lazio as Immobile does. But then it was kind of like that started to put it in perspective for me, that it was like, it's true. And that's like, we knew that. But then it's like we needed to be reminded that we are already bumping the value up of players who are not as good in real life as others just because of the utility. I then won a tier 3 limited from someone in the K League who I'd never heard of. And I was like, would I rather this card or somebody from like Hamburg, who's in the second division, Hamburg? And it's like, I probably want the other one. I probably want the second division one. And so there was that, like, that put it in some perspective for me that was the case, that like, that's what we needed to do. Like, really put this in perspective that we already had, like, is the second division in Spain better or worse than the Norwegian top division, which we also just added? And it's like, they're probably better. And yet when Norway got added, everyone's like, okay, cool. Yeah. Anders Dreyer's back. Yay. And yet we're like getting so caught up in the second division idea that like, oh, it's second division, they're terrible, and now they're going to ruin the game. Frankly, a lot of these guys aren't even that good. There's no one really coming out. And I saw the reaction of, well, now we want players to get relegated because they'll play in an easier league. Well, like, that idea is what we've always wanted. And not necessarily relegation, but like, if you have a guy who's struggling in La Liga and then all of a sudden he goes to Belgium, you're high-fiving anyone you can find.
Yeah.
And yet that we're perfectly fine with that. But the idea that they go to like the Segunda division, now you're like, oh, this is terrible that I'm hoping for this. But like, I don't know. I think it's fine. Like, I've got a full 180 where I was like, I think this is bad, and now I'm like, this is fun. Let's just get more leagues. Why not?
Well, I think it's just what Harry said. People do not like change. Like, if Belgium came on now and Belgium wasn't established and already on, people would lose their minds about Belgium being on. Like, to me, it's I don't know. Like, I have more fun. I was saying yesterday, and this is something you and I have said for, I mean, I've been on the platform for what, a year and a half now, and I've said this since like pretty early on in my year and a half. Champ EU is so stupid. It really is. Like, the real fun on this game is like Asia and America, where there aren't just elite level cheat cards that are like that. And I think the second division competition could be very similar to that, where there's not any full blown cheat code cards that are just going to go out there and destroy people. So I'm looking forward to it. I thought it was a positive immediately. To me, whenever Sorare adds leagues and adds teams and adds guys, that's a positive, because if Sorare has everybody and they have like the market share and like every team in the world type of thing, that's good, because that means it is a global game. That means that they are not getting beat by anybody to own cards. Like, when Ultimate Champions got Arsenal, I was like, oh, that's not great. But I also was able to realize they only got Arsenal. There's a reason they only got Arsenal, and that was fine. But like, all of a sudden, if you come in, like, if someone came in and got the Premier League, I would be like, until the Premier League, if no one has the Premier League, I'm not worried about it, because it still means it's available and could be got by Sorare. But to me, I getting all these leagues is great. It's fun to me looking at the young players in these leagues and seeing up and coming players that could become really good at some point in the future and be impactful players for any of these big teams. That's way more interesting to me than being like, oh, great, Bayern plays the Bochum boys and Skosmo's sad because they're going to give up 7 goals. And sure enough, they give up 7 goals and people are like, oh my God, I can't believe they just gave up 7 goals. Like blah, blah, blah. This is what happens. Bayern and PSG are so much better than the level of competition in their league. It's not close. Like Liverpool to an extent is the same, but the Premier League is much better. There's like 2 to 3 teams in the Premier League that are very good. Another 4 to 6 that are very, very solid. And then you have like the bottom of the league is usually teams that at least can defend well. They just aren't very good offensively. Like Burnley for years was at least serviceable defensively a lot of the time and could shut down some teams. Whereas like PSG played Lille, which is like one of the better teams in France, and just throttled them where everyone ripped the hundreds. So it's a situation to me where like Champion U is just really not fun. But I know people want to play it. But the thing is, it's like people are out there playing it, and then they're like, how am I supposed to compete with my Lazio stack? You're not. You're not. That's
You're just not. Yeah.
Well, you will maybe once or twice a year when Lazio wins 5-0, and maybe Bayern plays Man City in the Champions League and they don't have a good game. So like you're playing those guys for the rare occurrence in which they are competitive. But like if PSG scores 6 goals a game, you're not going to compete with that.
Yeah, no, I think that's correct. What's funny to me was it came out more. Actually, I feel like it came out more with the second division one than when like they introduced Norway. But everyone was like, these aren't the top 20 leagues. And I just like, I had like a admittedly smart ass back and forth with someone on Twitter, which is like such an awful thing to do. And yet I like got into it. But I was like, just show me where they said they only wanted the top 20. And they were like, oh, it's in the mission statement. Something that's what it was. Mission statement. Like everyone knows they want the top 20. And it's like, no, I know they do. And that's still the goal. But like nowhere did they say they only wanted the top 20. In fact, it's closer to what you said. They want everyone. Like, let's not rule out 18th division in Guam. Like, I think they want everything at some point. Like, that's the goal.
I agree with that. I think that makes sense. I mean, looking at the Champion U discussion and going into that. So actually, I want to circle back to Nellis's comment. And Nellis's comment.
Me too.
Mainly because I liked the wording that he used. But he said the issue for him isn't the change. It's the post and ghost of a poorly communicated announcement. I like that term. So like that's why I want to circle back to it. But I agree that the issue is like, again, I feel like everything with Sorare circles back to a lack of communication, right? Like they post something at 3 p.m. French time on Friday. We know they're not going to respond for at least 72 hours because they don't work. They just don't work. So like it's frustrating to people when that happens. In terms of the leak being not fun either, I agree with that to an extent, except for like people are like, oh my, I saw someone said that there was a tweet that it's Nicholas's cousin was Relegation. That was the tweet. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, this is so stupid. Like, I'm not saying that there wasn't a leak or was a leak. I have no idea. But like the pictures were on for like 3 weeks. I saw the pictures for the second division like 2 to 3 weeks ago. Did I decide it was a good idea to pop down 50 ETH on cards? No, because I didn't have 50 ETH available. And also like I just wasn't going to do it. Did I buy an Etienne Green? Yeah. But like that was the only card I really bought because he was the one that I thought was the most impactful of people that would be coming back into the platform for the most part. But overall, I'm just like, I don't think it was a leak. People were acting like it was a leak and that like Nicholas's cousin is now like relegation lover and he just made a whopping amount of money. Nicholas isn't going to risk $1 billion on getting his cousin to make like 50 grand, but like that's not going to happen. So the whole leak situation is just maddening to me. And it's just like, I don't know. Like, I mean, there definitely, yes, wasn't a mistake to post the pictures of the players. Yeah. But like, why does this happen? Because they don't have a testing scenario where they can test all the stuff they want to launch. That's why whenever stuff gets launched, one, you get stuff like that's known about beforehand, or two, stuff comes out and it's broken because it doesn't work and it wasn't tested properly. So I guess it all comes down to like a poor communication and just sort of lack of execution on things. And hopefully they get better. But like the whole leak and that stuff was probably blown out of proportion. But then, so like just going back to Champ EU and the discussion of Champ EU.
Before you do, because I want to touch on that for a second, on the whether it's a leak or not. I think part of it is that somebody spends 50 ETH and everyone is like, they must have known, while ignoring that 50 ETH might not be that much money for some people.
50 ETH might be $500 to me, or like $20 to you. Like it might just be it's a relation thing. Yeah,
it's a total relation thing. You could also make the argument that somebody with that much money doesn't really need to spend 50 ETH to turn it into whatever they're going to turn it into, 150 ETH, 100 ETH. But like some people just like to play around. Like, so I think we're getting too clouded by the actual amount because it's a lot to us, but that doesn't mean it's a lot to everybody else. Like I remember like when I first started talking about Sorare, like before, like back when I was at RotoWire, and I was talking to you about it, and everyone's like, oh, it would be really helpful to show like what it takes, how much it costs to play Sorare. And it's like, well, how much I think it costs doesn't mean it's the same for somebody who's sitting on 500 ETH. Like, cost is all relative. And so I'm not like sticking up for Relegation lovers saying that they just happen to buy 50 ETH of cards because of updated pictures on Sorare and there's nothing to see here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that at all. Maybe I'm saying it slightly. But there's just, you have to remember that sometimes 50 ETH is just not that much to some people. In terms of the post and ghost, what changes, honestly, what changes if they posted that announcement Monday morning and allowed everyone to just steam over it all week? Like, they're not, whatever feedback happened over the next few days, they're not going to be like, oh, you're right, we're just not going to let them be allowed in All-Star or U23, or no, you know what? We're not going to open up this new, whatever they called it. I don't remember even what the second division in Europe competition is now called. So like, I'm just not sure the timing matters. Like, all honesty, like what's the difference?
There isn't one. But the problem, it's all a lack of communication, right? I think people,
but we're going to get the same, like the communication is the announcement. That's the communication.
Yes, I think people are very frustrated at this point by Sorare because of just overall lack of communication with things and a lack of follow-up, where they post something and then it blows up and they have no response to it or anything about it. It's John just said, I was gonna say it's the optics of it, right? The optics of it is that the Sorare team doesn't do a good job with communication. And it's also the optics that the Sorare team does not work very hard, because they literally are only there Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And if you have something outside of that time frame, you're not going to get a response, or you're not going to get any sort of answer. And then it usually takes a couple days from there to get an answer. So it's just, I think it is an optics situation about everything. Circling back again to the account opening 3 weeks before it happened or whatnot. Yeah, that part's totally weird. I agree with that. Like, that part is weird of the whole situation. I don't agree. So Metal Gear says that if it's a whale with 50 ETH, that's nothing. He's going to go and buy the famous strong players. That's not necessarily true. If some whale thinks that, hey, this is a spot where I can make a couple $100,000, they're going to go try to make a couple $100,000. And if this is the best way they see fit to do so, they're going to do it that way. So I don't necessarily agree with that part, but I think it's just a whole, like, we get very little communication from Sorare in general. And I know you're going to say like the announcement was the communication, but like, I don't think the announcement should be the communication. It should be like the announcement should be more something Actually, to be fair, I think Sorare thought this was a nothing burger and they were just announcing a new league. Do you think that's what they thought?
It's possible.
And to be fair, Nicholas they forced Nicholas to respond on the leak situation.
Mm-hmm.
So like, they actually had the highest person possible respond to the leak situation. I think part of the frustration was also moving championship cards from the English Championship out of Challenger into this new division. That caused some of the fuss as well.
What's amazing is I think you could argue that is the biggest deal in all of this, but Relegation Lover made us look somewhere else.
True.
And so we were talking about this internally.
Relegation Lover took the focus off you being selfish and greedy, Laird.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that. I don't even remember what I was going to say. No, you've totally thrown me off here. Oh, no. So the cards not being playable in Challenger, I think is, and announcing it now is really bad. Like what we were always told was that like major changes in gameplay would be we'd have plenty of lead time. The fact that the season already started and like people spent like we were complaining that the scoring matrix wasn't giving us enough lead time, and they're giving us like 2 weeks for the Challenger players to no longer be eligible in Challenger. The one thing that we were talking about internally, I'm stealing this from Pat. All the people who are like the second division players shouldn't be allowed an All-Star and U23. How would you feel if you owned a Muric? And now that he's a second division player, how would you feel if he could not be used in U23 now?
As someone that does not own a Muric, that would have been hilarious.
You'd love it, yeah.
Because I would have lost my mind. I would have absolutely blown a gasket on it. That would have been nuts to me. So Bullstar just said the issue with the D2s and other leagues is it potentially dumping a lot of new supply in a market where supply already feels that is way greater than demand. I don't agree with that at all. I think that's very flawed. In my opinion, supply is only relevant to cards that are usable and like valid cards. Like we just added a lot of non-great cards and we added more rewards. So like people do like to win like a tier 3 they just like to win. So like winning a tier 3 is super awesome for a person. So we just gave a way for people to be excited while not really impacting things from that perspective, because the supply that matters is how many Kylian Mbappes there are and what's the demand on Kylian Mbappe. It's not a worry of like what is a supply or demand on this tier 3 that averages 38 points a game.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. And the big like uproar that went up when that survey came out about adding women's football cards and whether those would be playable in All-Star and whatnot. And that brought up the observation that it's really the outlier cards that we're worried about. Outlier cards or outlier teams that you could just like stack and dominate. Adding the second division, I think people started thinking that there are like cheat code teams. And it's like, oh, I'll just need to get a whatever. I can't even think of a second division team now that I'm trying to make an example, but wherever. And I think having more cheat cards is good, because what we saw this past weekend and the previous weekend is everybody talking about how high scores are. And they're like, well, you can't compete unless you have like PSG or Bayern stacks. And it's like, well, there's also Celtic and Ajax and Zenit and Salzburg and sometimes PSV. And like, why don't we want more of those so that we can have like more upper tier competitive cards?
Because the problem is that it just doesn't matter, because once you get to that point and everyone's just scoring hundreds, if you can't score 100, it doesn't matter.
But if we have more of them, isn't that good?
No, I don't think so. I think in general having the cheat code cards isn't good because it just means if you don't have them, you lose. So like it's not about like it doesn't matter because you're capped at 100, and then two, which I know you don't like. I do like that because I don't want to see someone go out there and rip 180 points off, and then if you just don't have them, you just lose.
No. I'm absolutely pro 100.
Oh, okay. I thought you were.
I'm anti-zero. I want to go below zero.
Oh yeah, well that's fine. I mean, I don't think that matters though, because if you get zero,
It doesn't. It doesn't. But I just want it for the shits and giggles.
But like the more people you have that just rip hundreds, it makes it more difficult because you can't compete unless you're ripping hundreds. So
if there are more hundreds, then isn't it just it's all the same anyway? Not the same.
Yeah, but then you have no competition because everyone just scores 100. If you don't score 100, you lose.
I mean, I don't think we're realistically seeing 500s each week, but I guess we're seeing.
No, I think we are realistically seeing a good amount of 500s this week, and they're all very obvious guys that are going to put. Who did I tell you last week on Wednesday was the best play of the week, and that included anyone else from PSG or Bayern or anything?
Malcolm.
What did Malcolm do?
He only had 100.
Only had 100. Well, what was his AA without a goal as a forward?
What was his AA with a 45.7?
45.7 as a forward if he did not score with 5 shots on target and 5 attempted assists. He had 25 points. Like, I told you he was the best player, and like I played him in my Gas 3. Unfortunately, my Gas 3 got let down by Carlos Gil and Aranya, but I did still. Actually, I think I'm getting the last star right now in that division. But
do you think Malcolm should have scored the same as Neymar?
Sure. There's a cap. Like you shouldn't be like. Should Neymar have scored like 150? No. Like I mean, what are you gonna do? I mean, to be fair, their scores are pretty close because Neymar wasn't as impactful in the game. Like I didn't watch the Zenit game because unfortunately my lineup I had already deemed as dead by then because Gil and Rania put up 100 combined. So I was like, I have no chance to really get anything good, which was true because I literally got 100 from both of the Neymar and Messi's. I guess I only got 90 from Messi, and then I got like
Messi disappointed.
I got like 80 from Armani, and I still I'm not going to get tier 0. So like realistically, it's a lineup where I didn't have top end equity, so therefore I didn't really care about sweating anymore. But it's just a situation like the more hundreds you have, I'm not including Julian Carranza and Elliott because they're not going to get hundreds very frequently. It's those guys.
You won with the Philadelphia Union stack this week, Sean. Who needs Paris Saint-Germain?
I got a tier 3 with my Union defensive stack in D1 because that's what I got. It's just a situation where the more people you have that just repeatedly rip 100s, and I don't think there's that many people that are going to repeatedly rip 100s, that's where you run into issues. And that's where you run into it's just not fun. That is why I don't like Champ EU. So what are we, 2 weeks into Champ EU season?
Mm-hmm.
And week 1, the winning lineup was Messi, Neymar, Kimmich, Bayern stack, and then Marquinhos or whatever. This week, what was the best lineup? Was literally a 1v1 off of that, effectively. Like,
no way, man.
Modric was in there, but like, look at the second lineup. It's literally Neuer, Marquinhos. I think that lineup was like one of the ones that was probably complaining in week 1 because like it didn't win because there was like Upamecano instead of Marquinhos, and someone's like, well, why are you not running Upamecano with Neuer? But like this time it paid off. But it's literally the exact same lineups except for 1v1 in defense, 1v1 at goalie, and 1v1 between Messi and Mbappe, which are effectively the same guy. Just depends which one gets like 4 decisives instead of 2.
No, I think the lesson here is that if you want to win Champion Europe, you have to have Hakimi.
Well,
no?
I think, here, and I've said this, that the spot that you win the divisions on, the spot you win with is defense and goalie. But goalie's stupid as shit.
Goalie's stupid, yeah.
Yeah, goalie's dumb, so you just got to hope. But you win it with defense. The defender is the key spot because, like let's look down here. All right, so Neymar, Mbappe, or Neymar, Mbappe, Kimmich, Neymar, Mbappe, Kimmich, Neymar, Mbappe, Kimmich, Neymar, Mbappe, Kimmich. Like, it's literally the Neymar, Mbappe, Kimmich show. I think Kimmich will not always rip hundreds because he does not get a ton of chances from open play, so he has to basically get a decisive off a set piece, which isn't always going to happen. So like you're looking at Neymar, Mbappe, Kimmich, and then so Kimmich, I think you could like maybe have like an Nkunku or like a Chalongalu, but like the defenders, that's where things can be different. Where you can have like TAA, you can have Upamecano, you can have all these different guys that produce
Hakimi,
okay.
Come on.
You can have Hakimi. Hakimi's going to have hundreds. Trent Alexander-Arnold's going to have hundreds. So it's really about like who's going to rip 100 on that given week, and that's the spot where you can realistically differentiate from. Otherwise, like if you're looking at if I'm sitting there and I'm looking at PSG and I'm like, oh, PSG is a 4-goal favorite this weekend. I wonder who's going to score the PSG goals. No, I'm not wondering who's going to score the PSG goals. I know who's going to score them. It's a, hey, can Hakimi get a decisive on one of the 5 PSG goals this week? Because if he does, he's got a really good shot at putting up a monster.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair for sure.
Also, yeah, so here's another discussion on Champ EU. And I'm not saying this should have won, but like go to the Inter Milan game. Because we know I've run an Inter stack, and I actually did run an Inter stack with my Neymar and Messi this week. But like, all right, so Inter won 3-0. They absolutely dominated the game. They were very good in this game against Spezia. None of these guys are usable, except for like Bastoni. Like you can't play Lautaro.
He didn't even have a decisive.
Yeah, who didn't even have a decisive. He just had a really good game. But like, so I ran Handanovic, Skriniar, Brozovic with Messi and Neymar. If you flipped Skriniar and Bastoni's scores, I still wouldn't have gotten to tier 0, Larry.
Yeah.
With 260s, a 90, and 2 100s effectively. So it's more so just yes, there's going to be a random game where Inter wins like 6-0. And like if Brozovic gets an assist, he's probably going to hit a 90-point game a lot of the time.
Sure.
So like the issue is Brozovic is going to get an assist 20, 25% of the time, not like 60 to 70%. So it limits him a little bit. But like that's where things are at with Champ EU is like you just got to plow in the best players. And like I feel bad because like I know other guys are running like our buddy Tuggy. Tuggy has an FC Colm stack. Just doesn't get the job done. Like he's just not going to get the job done.
But he knows that. Like he knows most weeks he's not going to get there.
Well, I mean, yes. I'm not going to say Tuggy knows that, but yes, Tuggy does know that.
But yeah, no, he knows that.
But like, yeah, but the problem is so like, let's say you get like last year, I did win Champ Europe 4, I think, once with an Inter stack, and that was the only tier 1 I had in Champ EU last year. And I ran the Inter stack all season, and Inter was pretty good most of the year. And so Mike says ban stacks. Problem is, I don't even think banning stacks does anything in Champ because if you ban stacks, like I'm going to run, let's say you're capped at 2, right? 2 players a team. I'm going to run Neymar and Mbappe. I'm going to run Kimmich.
That's why you cap at 1.
Well, if you cap at 1, then it's like, then you get to the point where like, all right, well then Mbappe and Messi aren't that valuable because I can just run Neymar and get the same or better results for cheaper. And then you're like, all right, I can only run 1, so I don't really need more than 1 of these guys because what's the point? Except for Kimmich. Kimmich's like pretty standalone because Kimmich just is way better than all the mids. And
yep,
I don't think you really want to play any of the other Bayern guys. Like you saw the Bayern, like Bayern smashed, but here's the thing. Bayern guys didn't really do that well, despite winning 7-0. Like Coleman, no one was playing Coleman.
Yeah, nobody's playing.
No one's playing. And then like Kimmich smashed. Everyone else was fine. Like, I mean, Mane put up 85, which is good, but again, like, hey, well, how's that sort of match up against Neymar's 100? Not great. So it's all a related thing, but I don't know. We've heard talks about them going to like a specialist type style for every competition. And my issue with that is that you really devalue star players in that situation. Because if you allow only one over 60 guy, then like, what's the point of me having a Neymar, Messi, Mbappe, Kimmich? Because I can only play one of them. Similarly, like you want guys that just are hovering around the 60-point line. But as soon as they eclipse the 60-point line, you're like, well, this guy's shitty because like I'm not going to use him over Neymar. So just all of a sudden that guy becomes 0. So like the people that are like the most valuable guys on the platform are 55 to 60, and you're just praying they don't eclipse the 60-point threshold.
Right. I think
Which
that's
is my biggest issue. And I think like if they go that way, I would be very likely to no longer be on the platform in that situation, because I think it is not a good precedent to set to make the best players out there worse. Like I think that is not good to me.
I think that's fair. I will say that one suggestion I saw this weekend from Peachy I love, and it's making legends turn into more of a specialist. Like make the 2 guys that you can't have as legends, the 2 non-legends, be 40 and under.
Oh, in the legend competition, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I just am out there running, but the legends competition is stupid as it is, but I agree with that.
But like, I think that makes legends competition not as stupid.
Maybe no, it's still stupid because they only reward legends. But I mean,
well, that too. But
no, actually, I think 40 is too much. I think U50. I think the underdog is really solid because the underdog is. I've looked at lineups. There's always a lot of different options within the underdog situation that makes sense. Like I like the specialist and I like the underdog. I think both of them are pretty solid options, to be fair. But that's what I said. Like I don't think you need to really change your core gameplay because you just have these. Now that said, like I'm basically what they've done is they have made a specialist and underdog region effectively. Yeah, what it is right now. You can literally play
it's all-star.
Yeah. It's all-star
specialist.
All-star specialist. I think that's great. I don't think you need to do anything else with that.
And they had the specialist over 32 and under 23 for 1 game week and then got rid of it. But I think those should come back as well.
Jono just said, well, actually, here's a question for you, Laird. So Jono said U50 for underdog is too high. What do you think?
I thought that at first because at first it was under 40.
Yes. It started under 40, then moved up.
And then they moved to 45, and then they moved to 50. And 50 felt like I was playing guys that that shouldn't have been there. They were like, oh, these guys are too good, but they're just in a poor run. But then, like everything else, I just got used to underdog being at 50, and it was fine. Like I like being able to play guys that I actually know and are just not playing well, as opposed to trying to buy guys who are absolutely horrible. And like as soon as they go from 40 to 41 are just dead. And like there's nothing worse than trying to make a specialist lineup and you have like 6 guys who average 41 points over their last 15, and you don't want more of those guys. Like it's okay if guys go from 50 to 51 because 51 average means they're at least you can consider them in real competitions. But like guys between 41 and 50 are just in this absolute dead zone. They're worthless. Like they're literally just worthless at that point.
Yeah. No, I pretty much agree with the comment that like at first I thought it was too high, but now I don't think it's too high. I will say what I think is stupid is not having to have a goalie in the underdog competition. But
you can play goalie. I'm just saying you can play a goalie there.
Okay.
Nobody's stopping.
I think having 4 players in the underdog is stupid. But I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to give people the idea behind the underdog is that it gives people the ability to play while not like having to worry about paying for the goalie.
Yeah. I think it's okay. I say that as somebody who is holding hope out that I can win something with super rare underdog this week that I wouldn't be able to have entered if I needed a goalie.
True. Positive comments for me. I got a positive stat correction, moved up to 2nd in Champ Europe or Champ America D1 Laird.
Yeah.
So we got a positive stat correction in my favor.
Still plenty of time for them to take it back, Sean.
That is valid, Laird.
Don't tempt fate. I want to. Well, before I do that, they should bring like U23 underdog and over 32 underdog or specialist every week. Seems like such a great idea to me.
I agree with that.
Like I really wish they had that.
Yeah, Parasil mentioned it. I think he mentioned to have it permanent. I agree with that. I think it's a good competition.
It would be so great to have that all the time. So if anyone from Sorare is listening, please take that. Speaking of Sorare,
I would be fine getting rid of well, I guess you can't get rid of the regular specialists because you want guys in the middle age range.
Well, I think it just moves us closer to what a lot of people are asking for, and it's just regional underdog and specialists.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a bad idea. And so if you just start it with, we obviously have it with All-Star, and if you just continue it with U23 and O32, which I think should be 33, then go for it. Like, I think it's a slam dunk. On the topic of Sorare listening, I want to go back to this post and ghost. What feedback do you think that they would have gotten that would have made them A, respond, and B, change what they announced?
Nothing. But here's the thing.
I realize the optics are bad, but I'm going to say that the optics are bad because of the way we're all looking at it.
Well, the optics are bad because people were losing their shit, and it wasn't necessary for people to be losing their shit. But the reason people are losing their shit, I think the reason people were absolutely going bonkers was because, one, rewards never get fixed to the point where people are happy, and it's not communicated. And I know you're going to say that they've been fixed and there's not going to be communication on it. But like, D2 is still bad. They've improved it, and that's why, like, I don't care, right? Because I have seen over the last 6 to 8 months improvement. They have improved every aspect of the rewards system since, I don't know, March, whenever that discussion was, January, February, March, whenever that was. So, like, I don't have complaints because I've seen that happening. Now, what I will say, and why people are still annoyed and pissed off, our buddy Harry won a 24-year-old in U23 prize pool this week. We're a month and a half from that deadline changing. Why is he winning a 24-year-old in that prize pool? Or, like, I know Peachy, we talked about Peachy. He won a guy that had transferred to, like, a non-covered division and still got his cards from the team he was previously on weeks after it happened.
To clarify, he won a Challenger Europe card in Champion Europe.
Yes. And then also the leak situation. People were very upset about that. But again, I think that was blown very far out of proportion because it was pretty obvious what happened for the most part. A lot of people's issues was on the relegation lever account, though, I believe.
So I think I'm not sure how to put this nicely. I will say, before I say anything, obviously it's in my own well-being for Sorare to succeed. Like, my livelihood is dependent on this. And so I feel like some of the responses I get to what I say is like, well, you have to say this. And I appreciate that I should be more optimistic than others because I obviously, like, do this for a living. That being said, I'll then keep it positive here, or at least to defend. I don't want to defend Sorare, but, like, all of the reactions that happen to every announcement are about different things. And I don't think Sorare announcing something should open them up to criticism about other things. And it's like everyone is like, D2 should be fixed. Rewards should be better. And they're like, hey, we just introduced this new league. And everyone's like, no, fix Division 2, the super rare division. And I don't think that Sorare should respond to that in that way. And so it's just like the reaction to what happened on Friday, meaning the announcement that these second divisions are coming. It just felt like all of the reaction was about other things. And, like, not to say people shouldn't be upset about those things. Like, there are plenty of issues. We know rewards are a problem. We just added a ton of cards to the reward pool, which is apparently not good enough, or they will be. But, like, I'm just struggling to find the reason other than it looks bad for this Friday announcement. And it looks bad because of how everyone else is responding to it. Like, that announcement happens any other time, Sorare's not responding to everybody being like, this is terrible. Like, people are like, don't do like, you can't do this. Like, I'm leaving if you guys do this. And it's like, that, what are they going to say? They're not like, there's no reason to respond to this. And yet we're all like expecting reasons, and everyone's like, oh, they're not being transparent. And it's like, this is the announcement. Like, this is how this works. I don't understand this like entitlement that people feel like everything that they say deserves a response from Sorare.
I think so. Here's a question. Like, if this announcement happened 3 weeks ago, what do you think? There would have been like no response to this at all.
No, I think people would still be pissed, but I still don't think that. Like, I think they would be pissed for the same reasons, which are like, oh, rewards should be better. D2 is broken.
Speaking of, I literally just troll Zura anytime he tweets anything anymore, and I'm like, when late swap. Every time Zura tweets anything, I'm like, when late swap. Doesn't matter what the announcement is, just like when late swap.
But people do that with any Sorare announcement, and it's like we're. It just I don't understand being angry about the same thing and replying to something completely different, expecting your problem to be fixed.
Yeah. To be fair, so like literally, yeah, random comment on that this weekend. I went to bed Friday or Thursday night. I woke up Saturday or Friday at like 8 a.m. I had like 6 deadlines already when I woke up, because it's like, well, Anthony's not going to play. Cruz is ruled out. I'm just sitting there. I'm like, well, it's fine. Luckily, I set my expectations really freaking low this week. I was like, I'm not going to win shit, because I was like, this is going to be a DNP disaster, and it did not disappoint. However, there were some monster scores that offset that.
Yeah. I just excuse me. I'm just struggling to accept that like the Sorare communications have been awful, because it seems like the expectation is that everyone feels that every complaint should be addressed every day. Like, honestly, that's how it's starting to feel.
To me, it all circles back to their just overall lack of communication and their overall 9 to 5 France times. That's where it all blows back to me. But I agree with you to an extent, though. I do agree that just people are just upset because that's just what people do.
But like, if anybody in chat can like help me here, because like I know that there are things that are wrong or bad 24-year-old players in U23, but like what are the issues that Sorare are ignoring that we're getting like bad communications on?
People think that Sorare is ignoring the rewards pool and the reward situation.
And what, but like Nicholas has said, like, we know it's a problem and we're working on it. And we have seen like more competitions come out so that there are more rewards out there. They're introducing new leagues that allow us to have a bigger reward supply. Like, what do people want to hear that will satisfy this whole like every single little complaint? People like, what do you want?
People want to hear, hey, there are no more U23 players that are 24-year-olds a month and a half after the deadline. People want to be like, oh, this guy tore his ACL a month ago. He's not in the pool anymore. That's what people want to see happen. And that is not happening. And the reason people are frustrated is because those things are very easily fixable and they should be fixed. However, they did communicate about this, actually, shockingly. I know recently that they're trying to, it could have been a Zura tweet. I don't know. That they're trying to change the times frame in which a player is given as a reward, which is a big necessity. Like, I mean, we talked about it with in U23 Rare Pro last week when the prize pool was terrible because it had 2 bench goalies and a guy that blew up his leg the week before. And we talked about it, how we said Zabalos was worth like 0.25 ETH, and then Wrench was worth like an ETH. But Zabalos was ahead of Wrench in the tiers because we're working 4 weeks back when Zabalos was worth like 0.7 and Wrench was worth 0.5. But you can't do that when a guy literally blows out his leg. I've said before, like, I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember last year when I won Leo Grimel the week his super rare the week he blew out his ACL?
No,
so I won Leo Grimel super rare the week he blew out his ACL. And I was like, you know what, that sucks, but it literally happened that weekend. Like, he blew out his ACL Saturday, I won the card on Monday. And I'm like, you know what? That happens. That's unfortunate for me that happened. My issue would be like if I won a Leo Grimo super rare a month and a half after he tore his ACL as a tier 0 super rare or whatever, I'm going to be pissed because that just does not make sense. So that to me is what I think needs fixed. It's the two most simple things. I don't know if the complaint recently has been we need more rewards. It always is, but like I don't think that's like been the full-on complaint. The complaint has been, oh, I won this guy that ruptured his Achilles 3 weeks ago. Why did I win this card? That's been more of where the complaint's been recently, in my opinion, but that could be wrong.
Yeah, I think I hear much more on the just they're not enough. It's like the points for rewards is too high, and the easy way to fix that is just have more. But like, somebody had a comment here.
Well, Chris just made a comment too, though. Like, so all right, they commented that they suspended accounts, right? But then they don't make a comment saying, hey, we found that there was no issue. We opened the account back up. It's similar to like the Blackpool situation, right? Like they said, hey, we're banning them from SO5 for this week. We will see what happens. And then nothing happened. They were back in SO5. But then at some point, Hybe got banned because he hasn't been playing SO5. Well, or he didn't get banned. We don't know. We don't know the story. We don't know the story.
Nobody
knows. Hybe hasn't played SO5 despite having 1,000 ETH gallery. Why is that the case? Why is Hybe not playing SO5? Is Hybe banned? Did they determine that they were against the whatever the rules were or whatever? Or did they just, or was like Hybe just not playing and like he just isn't playing? Like who knows? Because it wasn't established. So I think it's stuff like that where like
why does Sorare have to comment on somebody not playing anymore?
If Sorare comments on, if Sorare says we have suspended these accounts and we are looking into the situation, and then all of a sudden the account's just back up and running and there's nothing happened, they need to be like, hey, we have deemed that there is no wrongdoing with this account, so they are allowed to participate again. Or, hey, we have realized that this is wrong with this account, so this account is no longer allowed to play SO5 or whatever. Because if you are making an announcement on the start of the, hey, we're looking into this because we think there's something wrong here, and then you just don't say anything ever again, that's not good communication on that front, because people know you're looking into it. And then they're like, well, did you just not look into it because it's been, nothing's changed?
So you basically want a police blotter.
No,
like here are the accounts we've suspended, and we'll let you know what happens. Like that's what you're asking for?
Not necessarily that. They don't need to give the actual accounts. They need to be like, we have determined that the accounts that we were looking into have not done anything wrong, or they have done something wrong, and that they will no longer be allowed to play SO5. Something in that aspects.
So an announcement comes out on Friday saying that they're looking into some accounts. They've suspended some. You say they don't work on the weekends, and it's Monday now, and we're like demanding answers for everything.
Well, no, but they said they suspended it, and then Relegation Lover was back in the market selling cards. So like clearly if they did suspend him, they unsuspended him so that he was back in the market. But there was no communication on that.
Well, there was no communication of which accounts they suspended.
Correct. But there was good indications that it was likely Relegation Lover because all of his stuff got taken off the market when they said that. And then all of a sudden it was back up on the market like 2 hours later.
And so they suspend his account, her account, whoever, excuse me. They say, I bought all these, I have $1 billion. I play $100,000 poker hands. So dropping 50 ETH on a bunch of red X's, I just wanted to flip, and I saw the pictures changed a month ago, and I went in and I flipped. I'm now going to sell them for 5X. And so it was like, yeah, it was our mistake because of the pictures. Like, okay, like that's the response. So like, what's the?
Then Sorare needs to say, hey, we have looked into this and they have not violated any terms of service. So they're good to go.
So if they're still looking, they haven't been able to contact every manager yet, and they're still doing it because it's been 2 business days.
I'm only talking about Relegation Lover because there were clearly situations with his account. Part of it too, though, is a good comment to make on this, right? It goes into the whole like legal system in America, like, and it goes here, and I'm sure it's the same in other countries. I can only, you're not guilty until you're accused of being guilty, then you're guilty. Not like you're not guilty until proven, you're not innocent
Yeah.
until proven guilty. Like you're not guilty until you're accused of being guilty, then you're guilty. And that's how like sort of what happens here with Sorare is like something pops up, people are like, well, they're guilty, totally guilty. And like the thing is what people need to understand is it does not matter what Relegation Lover did or if he had a leak or anything like that. If Relegation Lover says, I bought these cards because I saw new pictures. I thought this was a good investment to sort of put money into. It makes sense to me. I think I can make money off this, and that's why I did it. They cannot prove Relegation Lover did not do that unless they have proof that he did not do that. But again, having the actual ability to prove that he did it is probably a bit more difficult because I don't know how they would prove that he did that in that situation. I mean, I don't know what the situation is. Like, if they know who Relegation Lover is, maybe they can be like, oh, this is Nicholas's cousin. This is clearly inside trading. But like, I'm assuming they can't do that. I don't know. I'm not on the team. I don't know the ins and outs of that stuff.
Yeah, I think the other thing that people were responding with that so everyone was like they're suspended, which means they like can't do anything. And I think generally most Sorare suspensions are SO5 related.
We don't know if they're suspended and can't do anything.
Also true.
We've been
Also
told in
true.
the past that like they can only suspend accounts from SO5. But we did notice someone said that Relegation Lover had stuff posted, then it was all not posted, and then it was posted again, which is weird if that wasn't the case. But yeah, as far as I know, they're suspended from SO5. Did Relegation Lover play SO5 this week? I don't know. I'm assuming no. He only has relegated cards. So like maybe you're right. Maybe Relegation Lover is suspended from SO5. But that's part of the issue, right? SO5. Like if you're buying these cards, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think the other thing that everybody wanted Sorare to like take the cards away. Be like, you got these, right? And we talked about this at some point. Maybe I talked about it with Andy. It's a while ago, but like, we don't want Sorare to have the ability to take our cards away.
Yeah, agree.
Like as simple as that. And so, yeah, they're in like a tough spot with this one, and being able to prove that somebody had insider information is not that easy. But this is still kind of good, just going back to the communication thing. That like I just don't know. It feels like the only communication anybody wants out of this is like, we've taken Relegation Lovers cards away. And anything less than that is going to be a disappointment. But I'm not even sure deserve isn't the right word, but like, why do we need to find out? Like, we found out that they're investigating, and that's it. Why do we need to find out the result of every investigation?
If you're announcing that you are investigating, you need to announce when the investigation is over, what your findings were.
Sure.
And that's
it's been 3 days. Maybe it's not over.
I understand that. Well, what's your thoughts on the Blackpool situation from 5 months ago?
Why do I need an update every day? Be like, we're still investigating.
You don't. But go back to this. The Blackpool situation that happened months ago. What's the update? What's the answer after their investigation? Because they said they were investigating. Are we still in investigation mode?
Maybe.
I don't know. So Josh makes a comment. This is something I think is worth talking about as well. So Josh says, isn't the bigger issue multi-accounting? I find it highly unlikely that a new user will come in and notice new card picks. So I don't think it matters at all. Because like, let's say that this person came in, they're not playing SO5, they're just buying cards. So like, it's no different than if let's hypothetically say that this was Laird, right? What is the difference between Laird buying these cards on his account and Laird like telling his wife, Mrs. Laird, to make an account and then buy the cards on Mrs. Laird's account? Like, it just doesn't really matter from an like, he's not gaining an advantage of playing SO5 with it. So like, I don't think the multi-accounting works here. I don't know why someone, in terms of what you're saying, yes, it does. It would make sense that someone created a second account to do this. Like, it would be very weird for some random person to come onto the platform and do it. But it could be as simple as like, Laird told his rich friend, not Laird, hey, not Laird, there's a great spot to like buy these cards. I think it's going to be productive in the future and you have a chance to make some money. And not Laird is like, I'm rich. I'm like, that sounds good to me. And he makes an account and does it. So like, it could be that situation too. HG just talked about my beard. Yeah. So this is the busy time of year for me. I literally do not leave the computer and work like 15 hours a day. So I'm hoping to get a haircut and shave in like 10 days. is the hope. But I don't have time for that shit right now. But so that's like, I don't think that the multi-accounting part of it matters in this situation. Now, if Relegation Lover starts playing SO5, then you have some concerns because there is a decent likelihood that they did that. But again, if Laird told not Laird to buy cards and not Laird bought cards, and not Laird is a different person, he is therefore eligible to play SO5. So like, I don't know. I think that the impact of it being a multi-account, like, yes, it could be a multi-account. It would definitely make sense based on what we see, but I don't think that there's any advantage to it.
Yeah, I don't think that there is, like, I think people are either oversimplifying it or undersimplifying it. I can't decide. But it's like, I realize that these new cards are coming. And because I see the new pictures and I'm like, man, somebody could make a lot of money by just buying a bunch of second division cards. And I just call my friend and I'm like, hey, you should open an account on Sorare. Please use my referral link and buy all these second division cards and you'll be able to flip them for like 5x in 3 weeks.
That's why so Metal Gear just made a comment. He's like, no, a new user would not be able to handle themselves. A new user could definitely handle themselves if they have someone that they know on the platform that is comfortable with stuff.
Right.
Like when I came onto the platform, I was literally talking. Laird got me onto the platform a year and a half ago. And I literally was asking Laird how to do things nonstop. And I would say by the end of the couple of days, I was pretty confident doing most things based on Laird literally walking me through stuff. So like, yes. Also, I want to say, like, I totally acknowledge that it is unlikely that this is just a new user. It is almost a 0% chance it is totally a new user from the perspective of they at least have someone that told them to sign up, that knows what they're doing, or it's someone with a second account. Like that, yes, one of those is like 99.99% what is happening. But like, again, to me, if you look at that, that's a whole hell of a lot more likely that it is a brand new user that has no idea what they're doing. That seems more likely to me than it being Nicholas's cousin, for example. Like, it's not Nicholas's cousin.
I just think, well, and going back to like when you joined, you were like also asking about SO5. Like, if you're bringing someone here to do this, you're literally just being like, you see the red X and the buy button, just click that.
Correct.
And then later I'll show you how to sell it. Like, we want to make it seem a lot more complicated than it actually is.
Correct.
And so like I think it could be a new user, like in the most literal sense, somebody brand new signing up and doing it with help from an existing user. Like that happens all the time.
Here's
literally how the affiliate and referral system works.
Here's another comment I think that's important from the situation that I think people are glossing over this aspect. People are bitching about Relegation Lover buying all these second division cards and all that stuff. Valid, right? He bought cards in Challenger. Like, he bought like Belgian second division and Ajax and like our Netherlands second division. It wasn't just Champ EU, but the only thing that is being used right now is Champ EU. They're not like Champ EU, but like France, Italy, Spain, England. Like, so he bought a lot of cards that are in like the Belgian second division that's not covered. And there's still like no indication that it would be covered. So like, maybe it's as simple as like, like someone told their friend to come on and buy all these guys with red X's, and that person did that. HG said that the timing is too suspicious. He's like, I'm not a conspiracy buyer, but right there, it definitely feels fishy. I 100% agree. To me, the most likely scenario here is it is a second account for someone, or it's someone that got a friend to do it, or their wife, or their sister, or their brother, or their dog to do this. So like, yes, I agree 100%. That is what likely happened 99% of the time. It's just a who did it, what happened, who knows. So Metal Gear says everyone's saying knows it's a second account and existing user. That is literally not true at all.
He said the theory that this is someone's rich friend is just not realistic. I think that's the most realistic outcome.
I'm not saying it's the most realistic outcome, but like, I don't know. Metal Gear is going a little tinfoil hat here on this, in my opinion. Like, I know a lot of rich people that will dump money into stupid shit if they think that there's a profit to be made.
So like, if you have a really rich friend and you go and say, join this site, buy these cards. Are you running the account? It's not your money.
If
They're doing it. Like, I think that's what happened.
Correct.
But I have no idea.
I'm not saying, and to be fair, like it being someone's second account. So Metal Gear,
this is the tinfoil conversation I was not expecting to have today.
Metal Gear, here's a question for you. So if it's someone's second account, or I'm sorry, if it's someone that is using this as a second account, why did they not just do this on their main account? That's the question for you, Metal Gear. Because I'm not saying it's not, you're not wrong. I'm like, you could be right. But like, why, if it was Laird, why did Laird create a second account to do this instead of it just being Laird doing it on his account? I mean, Laird's probably a bad example because like Laird's obviously more known than people. But like, so let's pretend it's Niftio. Niftio, I'm using you as an example because you're here. If it was Niftio, why did Niftio make a second account instead of just doing it on Niftio's account? But Bullstar, why would they get banned if they just saw that the pictures and stuff were updated and that's what they thought was something? Because I'll be honest, so like people are like, well, would someone really put 50 ETH in seeing the pictures were done? Yeah. Literally, I've never seen Sorare update photos and then not produce cards of those photos. So he does not want to risk his main account with suspicious activity. But running a main account, only running one account, that's not suspicious activity per se. Whereas actually creating and running a second account is illegal and against the terms of service. Doing it on your own account isn't, in theory. The community, most people don't care if the community hates them if they get rich off it. They don't care.
Yeah, community hate is not a reason to not do something.
Yeah, community hate is not the reason. It definitely is what Metal Gear is saying. Like the concern is that your account would get banned for some reason or another. HG, so here's a good comment. HG just said, the problem is a second account is very traceable by Sorare, which makes sense. Like if you're running two accounts like on your computer, like they're going to know it's from the same IP address. You have the same account. So like them doing a second account is more risky than them just doing it on their own account.
Right. Yeah.
Niftio doesn't want to be pulled in anymore. God, I need someone else. Where's like Scosmo at? I could just use Scosmo as an example here. But yeah, it's a situation where like I just think that if someone was just doing this and buying these cards, he says VPN use is hard. Yeah, obviously someone could use a VPN. Yes, I'm not arguing. I'm just trying to give you a secondary viewpoint on a Metal Gear where it's like it could be someone else that is involved. HG said that there is so much more to do than just VPN. That could be, I don't know the ins and outs of that shit. I'm not self-proclaimed.
We're not experts in multi-account.
Yeah. You know how you know it's not Laird and I? Laird and I don't know how to do any of this shit.
We'd be busted in seconds.
Laird and I would be like, Laird would be like Lairdinho 2, and like I would be like PSU Fans 3, and like that would be our count.
PSU Fans 3, yeah, definitely. I want to go back to the topic we were talking about before, because we're just going down a rabbit hole of conspiracies here. Somebody brought up, I'm trying to roll back in the comments here. Red Devil 91 said, you can't just introduce a new division or league without comms. Wasn't the announcement the communication?
Yeah, they said they were coming up. Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's what the response has been to this new division. They were like, well, they just didn't like communicate it. It's like, that's literally all we have is their communication, which I will also say was extremely confusing.
Mikhail makes a good point too. The league could be on a lot of different sides. It could be on the league side or like something like it could be like someone.
Absolutely. But from what I gather, it doesn't matter. Like the rules are like, if you're profiting from insider information.
Is there even rules about that on Sorare?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And they're nice and vague so that they can both get in and out of it, and it's fine.
Yeah, timing definitely for the stuff wasn't great. However, I think I heard at some point that like they had timings, they had to release stuff. So like if they had like new cards from Belgium, they had to release it in the third week of the season. Like that was like the rules they had to do. So like they could have just like been forced to announce like the second divisions of stuff while this was all happening.
Roarin Fujin said his relegation lover was putting pressure on them to announce it.
Could have been. Relegation lover wanted his money out of it.
Yeah. Nicholas was there like, guys, my cousin is calling. Let's go. Let's
Nicholas'
release this.
cousin's like, guys, I need my couple $1,000s here. I also think, circling back to your previous point, I think it's relative to everybody. And like, I think people cannot grasp that to some random rich person, 50 ETH is a drop in the bucket to them. It's very difficult, I think, for people to grasp that. Like, everybody's different. Like, a half an ETH to me is a lot less valuable per se than a half an ETH to you, right? Like, you care more about that half an ETH from your gallery perspective than I would, because it goes a lot further for your gallery than it would for my gallery. Same thing with like,
I would like to have 50 ETH for my gallery.
I would love to have 50.
I'm just saying, if anybody,
I have plenty of holes. If anyone wants to give me 50 ETH for my gallery, let me know.
Yeah.
I have some holes to fill.
I would like 50.
And
thank you.
But like, I think that people just don't understand that. Like, I don't know. Rich people, if they see a spot to become more rich, so Nanzo's a great person. Nanzo's a guy that has a big gallery. Nanzo, if someone came in to you and was like, hey, Nanzo, this is a great spot. If you put in 50 ETH, you're going to be able to turn it into like 200 within a month or so. Are you going to be pretty open to doing like that type of investment in that situation? Since you're a person that I think would have more funds than a lot of other people to possibly consider that.
John Andrews said maybe they got word of a leak and rushed it out before more relegation lovers appeared.
Good man.
Relegation lover 2 and 3 and 4.
So,
being asked if they would, I actually love this question. Do you think the second divisions would have been launched if Ultimate Champions hadn't arrived on the scene recently?
I think yes. I think their goal is to get, like Laird said, their goal is to get like every relevant league. No, I'm not trying to say that relegation lover is Nanzo. Nanzo, I believe, has the funds to make something happen like 50 ETH. Like, he could put in 50 ETH into something, which is more like Laird. If I told Laird, like, hey, Laird, put in 50 ETH, Laird's going to be like, I don't have 50 ETH to put into this.
Let me sell my house. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm like, Laird's like, yeah, let me go take out some big mortgages and call it a day.
Yeah.
HG said no, he doesn't think they would. That's interesting. Maybe that's a good case. Maybe Sorare is rushing to lock down more stuff, and they would have taken more time had Ultimate Champions. Oh, okay. So HG said that Ultimate Champions rushed the plan 100%. Interesting. I wouldn't have guessed that. Very interesting.
So that actually makes it worse, because everyone was complaining that like the season's already started and they made this announcement, but it actually sounds like we think that they were going to wait anyway, like wait even longer. Is that good or bad?
I think I don't know. It's more so Nanzo just said it. I'd be open, but not to move on to second division players. I'm surprised people are aping into it. Valid. So like Nanzo wouldn't have made that move. To be fair, I want to know how much relegation lover makes off all this at the end of the day.
We'll know exactly.
We'll know exactly, because like I don't know how much they'll make. Because Metal Gear, the answer to that's very simple, because people don't have the funds themselves to do it. If Laird had some super, if Laird said like, oh, this is a great spot, I can't, but I don't have 50 ETH to put in, I can only put in 1. Well, they might tell their friend, hey, put in 50 ETH and then give me 10% of the profits. And that for Laird is way better than another situation.
Right. Like I think that's exactly what the point is. Like if you have an idea where you're like, oh, I could turn half an ETH into 1 ETH, but at the same time, I could turn 50 ETH into 100. Like I'm calling someone else and being like, hey,
correct.
I'm probably calling Sean. And he'll
but I would be like, I don't have the funds to do it either.
Right.
Because I don't have the funds to do that. Like realistically, like I don't have 50 ETH to just pop in on that situation. But I'm not the rich person. I know people that would do that. Like I know people that have no problem dumping 250K into something if it's a good chance
if they could make it into 500. Yeah.
It's also a thing like
in 2 weeks, by the way.
It's still it goes back to the whole discussion of like the rich get richer, right? And like rich people, a lot of rich people know other rich people and know sort of like what rich people to trust. And like they'll just like if one rich person says like, hey, do this, person will just do it because they're like, well, I trust this rich person. But the thing is it's not a for sure 5x type of situation. I don't think Metal Gear. I don't think that there was this situation here where maybe they thought it was. I don't know. I didn't do it. Like I saw the pictures like 2 or 3 weeks ago, but I didn't. I bought Eddie and Green. I literally bought one guy that I thought was the best option of that group because I wasn't just going to dump in funds onto guys that I just didn't see it as a smashing thing.
Like if you look, like there's no reason for Etienne Green to be traded as much as he was anyway. Like leading up to it, there were plenty of people like,
yeah. Maybe people didn't think it was. Maybe they didn't think it was that sure of a thing, but they thought it was a pretty good chance of it happening. There's tons of situations I know of that I can speak of that I've seen in life where it's like, I think this is going to be a really good opportunity, but I don't think it's a slam dunk. Good example, like I thought Sorare was a really good opportunity, so I put a lot of funds into it. I did not think Sorare baseball was a really good opportunity currently, so I have not put funds into that. So it's a situation like I do think Sorare baseball could be very successful, but I'm not convinced that it definitely will be.
So I'll tell you this, I'm not making 5x on my baseball cards.
What?
I said, I'll tell you this, I'm not making 5x on my baseball.
I'll tell you what, I'm doing a lot better in baseball than you are. And you've won a division.
You're doing better? No.
Yeah.
But I have cards. Think about you're trying to put a monetary value on fun, Sean. You just can't do that.
Yes. Metal Gear, rich people do some weird shit. But that's how they get rich, right? They just take risks. They take risks that are like somewhat educated. And like if they get a situation where it's like, hey, you might be able to 2 to 3x your money in a month, and it's like a 20% chance it doesn't happen, 80% chance it does, a rich person's gonna be like, that's a good enough odds for me to jump in and do it. Because they have the
pictures. Perch was saying the pictures aren't. Oh, where did that go? Weren't 100% like, because we had.
Here's the question, Metal Gear. So like, if I told you you had a chance to 2x, 3x your money, but you can only put in like $100, would you do it? You might, because you might be like, well, $100, that's not a big deal. For rich people, like 50 ETH might not be a big deal for them. That's just how rich people work. One day I aspire to be a rich person where I just have loads of money and I just don't care about anything. That's my goal in life, Laird, to be a rich person instead of my current appearance now.
If you were rich and somebody called you with this offer, would you do it?
Probably. If it was like dropping the, so like, all right, let's, so 50 ETH to me is a significant amount of money. Let's say it was like $2,000. If someone came to me and like gave me this offer and I was like, I've done it. That's literally the whole crypto experience for me, right? Mm-hmm. Like people raved about ETH at like $200 and I'm like, all right, I have a couple $1,000 sitting here. I'm going to go buy ETH. So literally it's the same situation, right? I was like, I'll go spend a couple $1,000 on ETH right now because it seemed, because you are a smart person that I trust, therefore I go in and do it.
Metal Gear saying, if I say this to a rich friend, even if he's on board, he can't do anything in the market without me sitting on his computer and moving his mouse.
I mean, that's literally the worst take I've seen all day, Metal Gear. You know how he can do it? He can sit there and tell his friend to move his mouse and do the exact same things he would do with the mouse. It's pretty simple. It's just not difficult.
Rich people don't know how to use a mouse, Sean.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you think
they're trackpad people, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, if you don't think a rich person knows how to move a mouse, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
There are some very complicated things on Sorare, but buying cards is very
easy. Yeah, buying a card and hitting buy now.
They make that process real easy.
It's not difficult. HG says he hates mouses. I had a mouse back in the day. I don't know if HG's ever seen it. It was like a scroll wheel, like you move the scroll wheel and you hold it in your hand. I hated those, like so clunky.
My kids have like a mouse, and I tried to use it the other day, and it was just like all over the screen. Like I just had no idea how to use it because I've used a trackpad for 30 years.
Can't do it. I'm good with video games. I used to be very good at video games, but that I use that shit. I tried to use it because I used to play poker. So like I tried to use it to play poker because supposedly some people really liked it. Whew, I could not get that done.
Yeah.
Well, apparently HG is just like, apparently HG struggles over there. He's listed 20 cards a day and it took 3 hours.
Oh no, is he selling up?
HG, are you selling up upon the news? Are you shutting down shop? Is Laird out of a job?
That would be bad.
That's
the
HG is putting Laird. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I'll let you know if I have any job opportunities for you in the future.
I was gonna say this might be the last SorareData strategy show. Thank you everybody who has tuned in for the last few months. It's been a real fun ride.
Yep. I list cards whenever I win them on rewards. Like I'll randomly list stuff. It doesn't take that long. The issue that I hate is the 2-day time period. I just don't want to have to go back and do it every 2 days.
Yeah, but then ETH will make a run and all of a sudden it's worth a lot less.
Then it goes, then it doesn't go, blah, 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 blah. That's tough.
It's tough. We've lost, I don't even remember what this was supposed to be about.
We actually stayed more on topic today. We were talking about second division clubs and stuff.
Yeah.
Technically, we did talk about that pretty much the whole time today.
When I told you what I wanted to talk about this week, what did you say was going to be the entire podcast?
I said it would be like we would say no, and then we would just go on to a rant about whatever. Actually, so for those that aren't aware, so since we flipped this show from from Friday to Monday, so whenever we were doing the original show on Fridays, Laird would message me on like Tuesday, be like, "Hey, let's talk about this." I'm like, "Sure, whatever." So this show now that it's like on Mondays, I've noticed Laird like mails it in on the weekends because he like leaves the house and touches grass, and like he'll message me like Sunday night at like 8 p.m. be like, "I don't have anything to talk about. Let's just talk about whatever the most recent thing was."
I had a topic.
You did have a topic.
I knew exactly what we were doing.
To be fair, I had a topic too, which we did also talk about. How stupid Champy U was.
Oh, well, I mean, you would talk about that every week.
I literally go into these. I'm in a bunch of random Discords and then the general Discord. And I go into the general Discord or like all these Discords. It's like, I didn't win Champy U with my Botchum stack. Oh, really? Never would have guessed that. Never would have guessed that ever.
It's really like the Valencia stacks that people are like, "This is a good one," and you're like, "No, it's not."
No, yeah, literally. Like I'll tell you what are good stacks: Bayern, Liverpool, and Liverpool has a big weakness at midfield, and PSG. Those are those. And to be fair, two of those teams have big issues at midfield.
Yeah, but you could just use Luis Diaz as a midfielder card.
Yeah,
problem solved.
Great card. To be fair, I actually don't think Liverpool stacks will be near as good this year. Actually, I don't even think they were that good last year. I think the Liverpool stacks. You know why the Liverpool stacks were great? Because they had
nobody else was playing.
It's the midweek utility is so big.
Yeah, that's when you win.
Yeah, the midweek
win the Champions League, and that's it. Yeah.
All
right. I think that's enough for this week. We can put our tinfoil hats down and at least wait until Sorare Andrews later in the week to pick those up. But thank you to everybody who has joined us live. This was a very lively conversation. Obviously, we touched some buttons there that people wanted to talk about. So thank you to everybody who tuned in. If you guys would please hit the like button. That's always really appreciated. Anybody who's watching the replay to do the same, thank you. If you could please rate and review the podcast if you're listening to the audio version, wherever you listen, that's always very helpful as well. I'll be back later this week with Andy for the Sorare Andrews podcast, and then Sean and I will be back next Monday for the SorareData strategy show, and I'll probably have a topic like before Sunday night. I would love to just not talk about this again.
We'll see.
But we'll see. Good point. We'll see. So thank you to everybody, and Sean, good luck